Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, Lauren here with another great business to discuss on this episode of the Real Money, Real Business podcast. Today's guest is Hal, and he's selling his Amazon FBA business on the Empire Flippers marketplace. Welcome to the show, Hal. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. I'm really excited to have you on the show, and I can't wait to learn more about your business. But before we dive in, I'm going to go over a brief summary of the business. This is an Amazon FBA business created in March 2018 in the baking niche. The average monthly revenue for this business is $28,538, and it makes an average of $7,067 per month in net profit. For everyone listening, you can visit empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 57907 to learn more about the business. Or you can unlock this listing to start your due diligence if you're interested in purchasing this asset. The assets included in the sale are an Amazon Central Seller account with 90 SKUs, a domain and all site content and files, a trademark, supplier relationships, an email list with 9,000 subscribers, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest social media accounts, and over 2,000 CAD files for unlisted designs. Please note that inventory is not normally included in the list price, but further details can be provided to active buyers. So now that we know more about the business, let's hear from the seller. Hal, can you tell us a little bit about your background in building and running online businesses?
Sure. So me and my co-founder, we started this business quite a few years back. Our backgrounds are actually in management consulting. We kind of transitioned into e-commerce by ways of data analytics, specifically just analyzing e-commerce marketplaces like Amazon and Etsy and trying to find niche markets where we could consolidate smaller opportunities that roll up into larger ones. And the market validation really pointed us to this particular niche, and we've been running it for quite a few years now.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, it sounds like you came into the industry with a good head start there. What made you choose Amazon FBA instead of other e-commerce platforms?
It's just the most robust ecosystem where you can be relatively hands-off your business and still run it from a growth perspective. We've actually tried a few different types of models, including in-house fulfillment and Amazon FBA, and we just eventually started transitioning everything to FBA just because of how easy it is to maintain.
Yeah, absolutely. You've certainly had a lot of success with this business. What is the reason that you're selling it now?
We've been running it for, I guess, a few years longer than we intended to. We're both moving on to new opportunities, and we just don't have the interest to really upkeep and give this business the attention that it deserves.
Yeah, sure. Is there anything that you learned while building this business that you would apply to any future sites or businesses?
Sure. So personally, I'm not starting any new sites or businesses, but I think there are several key lessons learned, particularly in taking it and leveraging the power of niche markets and niche audiences. The particular space that we were in really caught us by surprise because at the time, it didn't really present itself as a large opportunity, but the market validation was kind of phenomenal. And it was so impactful that it just kind of absorbed years of our time, leading us in that direction. So I think just making the most out of niche and custom audiences is certainly a lesson learned for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure not everything went according to plan. Is there anything that you would do differently a second time around?
Yeah, I think more or less just doing everything faster, right? That's the most common lesson learned. I'm sure as you've talked to a lot of founders, the first time around is always slower because you're validating certain assumptions, but the second and third times, you're really not testing the same fundamental hypotheses. So you're starting not from square one, but from square 3 or 4.
Yeah, absolutely. It's often easy to get in your own way when it's your first time around.
Yeah.
Do you do anything in terms of marketing for this business?
The only marketing that we do is advertising. So we do Amazon marketplace ads, but we don't do any off marketplace advertising. And to that end, we also have a pretty significant organic social media following that we haven't leveraged in the past 2 years.
Okay, sure. So if you were to keep this business, what are some of the ways that you would try and grow it further?
One of the most obvious ones that come to mind is we're a top seller and for this evergreen product, and we have been for several years, so there's consistency there. Due to capital constraints, we weren't able to create variants for sizes, but that's a very easy and low-hanging fruit. I think bundling is something else that we've seen success in with our competitors, namely bundling similar types of designs for certain themes. And then finally is just making the most out of our existing media assets. So I believe we have like 90 to 95,000 Instagram followers. We have an email list of 9,000. We have 50,000 organic visitors to our website every year. These assets really aren't used at all. So there's a lot of possibility there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like there's a lot of potential for growth there, which is a wonderful thing. Talk to me about your supply chain. Where are your suppliers based and how does the inventory get from them to the Amazon warehouses?
Sure. So all of our suppliers are based in China. We work with 4 suppliers, and we've been working with them for at least, I think, 2 years at the minimum, and the longest one we've been working with for maybe 5 years. So there's definitely an established history of consistency and reliability there. In terms of the supply chain, we essentially order from China. It's direct with duties and everything included, and it gets shipped either to our storage facility or to Amazon directly, depending on inventory limits.
Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a pretty streamlined process. In terms of your role in the business, how many hours per week do you spend on the business and what sort of tasks take up your time?
I would say maybe at most 5 hours, if that. So the only things that require my input are responding to customer service messages on Amazon, which maybe one max a day. Because everything is FBA, we don't really get a lot of tickets. And then secondly, managing and maintaining ad spend. So just checking in once every few days, once a week to see that our ad spends are actually returning. And thirdly, organizing orders and replenishments from China or from our storage facility to Amazon. And that's more ad hoc.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, 5 hours a week sounds like a pretty passive business. So it sounds like you've streamlined those processes pretty well.
Yeah, it's a very passive business. Yet not a lot of time is required to maintain it.
Fantastic. So for someone who's not familiar with Amazon FBA or perhaps the specific niche, what skills or requirements would you say would be needed to run this business successfully?
I think just a foundational understanding of how FBA works. If you've ever run an FBA business in the past, you should be able to fit in really easily. And then just doing some background research on the custom audience. It's not a very particular or like technical audience, so there's no specialties that you really need to learn or skills that you have to acquire. It's just understanding where they come from. So for future product development, you're able to get a better sense of the types of products that are likely to resonate with this audience, but very low barriers to entry to understanding what this niche actually is.
Yeah, certainly. So what would you identify are the biggest risks with this business that buyers should be aware of?
I think like most Amazon businesses, especially in the past year, risks, particularly on the supply chain side. So last year in particular, Amazon severely limited the inventory storage space, I think, of all third-party sellers. So that's something that we had to deal with, specifically having to store our inventory in an intermediary place. And then the rising transportation costs of the supply chain, something that we've seen just across the board, which I think can be alleviated with better capital management and just more capital in general so that you're able to store and order large volumes upfront and pay lower costs on both shipping and unit costs. But I think just risks that most Amazon businesses are facing these days.
Yeah, certainly. So obviously no one knows this business better than you do. What sort of support are you willing to offer buyers to help ease the transition?
So I'm happy to offer 30 days Skype, email, really just whatever the buyer needs to stand on their feet. I don't have any specific restrictions or limitations of what I'm refraining from. It's really just what the buyer needs.
Yeah, I think buyers will be very grateful for that. And when it comes to the sale, are you open to negotiating something like an earnout?
We would prefer not to do an earnout. So my founder and I would just prefer a cash payment.
Yeah, fair enough. And would you be willing to commit to a non-compete agreement?
Yep, that's totally fine. We don't have plans to enter the same market.
Okay, great. So do you have any advice that you would give our listeners that you wish you knew when you first started this business?
I think the advice that I would probably give is try to actively seek feedback from your customers. That really drove the initial product development and success of this brand within the marketplace, was just having an open mind and actively seeking feedback to improve products, to identify trends, and to build audiences. Over time, I think for me and my co-founder, we've just lost the interest really to keep doing that. I mean, there's certainly a ton of value there.
Absolutely. And that's great advice. And that leads us to the final question of the interview, probably the most important one, which is, if you had to put yourself into the shoes of a buyer, why do you think your business is a business worth buying?
I think there's a ton of upside with this business. We've been around for a while too, so there's a lot of stability in the rankings of the products and the audiences that we've built. So with the right buyer and with the right strategy, there's a lot of room for immediate improvement and a lot of low-hanging fruit to immediately expand into.
Yeah, certainly. It definitely sounds like there's a lot of potential there. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners that I might have missed?
No, I think you covered basically everything. I'm just excited to talk to interested buyers and just let them know a bit more about what we actually do.
Yeah, certainly. Well, thank you so much for your time, Hao. It's been great talking to you and learning more about your business.
Great. Thanks, Lauren.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. To learn more and see if this listing has already been sold, head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 57907. If you're watching this on YouTube, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. Once you've unlocked this listing, you'll be given everything you need to know about this business. So until next time, enjoy your digital journey.